and welcome back to my channel. So it is HSY in Korea, and today we will be talking about red flags when dating in Korea. So these are kind of some things that you guys might know if you follow me already on TikTok. So if you follow me on TikTok, then you might already know a lot of these things. If you don't follow me on TikTok, however, or you still want to know maybe the reasonings behind why some of these are red flags, or you want to listen more about the details of why they're red flags or what these red flags are and how to maybe avoid them, then keep watching. So basically, I feel like there are a lot of stereotypes or maybe even like red flags that we are all aware of. So I'll just start talking about some of them. So number one, if the person gives you line instead of cacao, that is a red flag, my friend. For example, if they give you a line just because they think you're a foreigner and then you ask them for cacao and they're like, oh yeah, okay, here's my cacao, then that might not be a red flag. However, if they're like, hey, let's talk to line, and then you're like, okay, well, I don't have line, do you have cacao? And they're like, oh, actually, I don't have cacao. Or they'll be like, oh, actually, it's only for work. Then that's kind of a red flag, a big ass red flag. So the reason why this is a red flag is because every Korean has cacao. Every grandma out there has cacao. Every ajashi out there has cacao. Even the Korean Americans back at home, they have cacao. So if all these people have cacao, how come a Korean in Korea does not have cacao? Like, it genuinely does not make sense. So if they are insistent that they do not have cacao, that they only have line, whatever, that the only way that they can communicate through is through line, then that's a big red flag. They probably have like a family, probably have like a wife, they probably have a girlfriend, a fiance, something that they're trying to hide. Because if you go into the Kakao app, Koreans are they like to show off a lot of times, not all the time, but not all the time, but many times they like to show off their significant other. So sometimes they'll have him as a the background picture, or even as the main picture itself. Also, I do want to note, however, that unfortunately, just because they give you their cacao, it does not mean you're safe. So a lot of times they might even still be having a girlfriend or whatever. And now Kakao has introduced this feature where you can make profiles. So if a Korean guy is insisting that you and only you give them your ID. If you're like, hey, what's your ID? They're like, oh, you give me your ID. And you're like, oh, well, it's easier if I add you. And they're kind of like insisting that they want you to give them your ID. Then that can also be a red flag. And the reason why is because this feature now with profiles is that they can basically change whatever profile you are able to see. So for example, I have one account and I have my main profile, right? Which is like a background of for example, a background of a cafe and then the picture of me, just like a selfie. But I can now make profiles where I can basically have different types of like accounts, kind of. It's one account, but for example, I can have another one where I can change my name. So I can edit one and I'll say like HSY, and then I can have a picture of me and my boyfriend and then a picture of my boyfriend as a main picture. And I can choose who gets to see that new profile. My main one will be the default. So anyone who adds me, they'll automatically see that one. And then the featured ones or whatever, the new accounts, I have to set it up and go to each person's individual profile and then switch in the settings to let them see a different profile of mine. I don't know if that makes sense, but now it's getting easier to kind of like get away with things even just on Kakao. But that would only be for the purposes of you not knowing that they have a girlfriend. However, their girlfriend back at home might still be able to look through Kakao and look at the messages. You know what I mean? Anyways, so that's the first red flag, lying on Kakao or just not wanting to give you their cacao. Red flag number two. If a Korean guy invites you to one of these places, then that might be a red flag. Might. Keep in mind the word might. It doesn't have to be a red flag, but a lot of times, I would say a high percentage of the time, or the probability is like basically sure, yes, probability. A lot of times people go to these places just for sexual activity. You know, a lot of younger kids, they go there too and they just have fun, or they just go and drink coffee, or they'll just drink water, watch a movie with their friends, play some board games. However, if a Korean guy takes you anywhere that has the word room in it, that could be a red flag. So for instance, cafe room. Sometimes cafe rooms are fine because it'll just be you and it'll be like an individual room, but it's really small and it's really it's really like claustrophobic. Nothing else can happen other than them trying to like sit next to you and you're kind of like unable to go anywhere else, and then they might be able to like touch you or kiss you, but that's kind of it. Like for the most part, you can see through the door. However, there are other ones that are coffee rooms or cafe rooms, or they'll be like DVD rooms, for example. DVD rooms, coffee rooms, game rooms, board game room, multi-game rooms or whatever. A lot of these, sometimes they are rooms where they have like a bed. So you go in and it's a small room and it's basically like a mini hotel, a mini motel maybe. Or maybe it's kind of like, if you've ever seen a goshiwon, it's kind of like that. So usually they have just like padded flooring. So it's like padded flooring, or they have like mattresses, padded mattresses. And then if you go into the rooms, they'll have like a big TV, a mattress, like the padded mattress, whatever, the floor. And then they'll have also pillows. Sometimes they'll have blankets, sometimes. And other times they'll have like in the hallway, they'll have like rolled tissue paper. You know for what, right? But yeah, so a lot of times in these places, there is the expectation that if you accept to go to these places, that you will be hooking up. And not just hooking up in the sense of like kisses, like hooking up like all the way like home base way. Home run way. So just keep in mind, be wary. I would say if you've met this person only a few times, or even the first time, and you already are saying yes to going to a DVD room with them, or a cafe room, multiplayer room, or a board game room, then just be careful that usually there's the expectation that you go there to have some sort of sexual activity. But not all the time, but a lot of times. So just be aware of the fact that that's what that is. And just learn to kind of communicate and keep your boundaries. Have your boundaries and stick to your boundaries. And don't be afraid to just get up and leave at any point if you feel uncomfortable. But yeah, also I do want to say that in the case that you are trying to communicate to people that you just want to go there just to watch a movie or just do this, know that in their mind, they're still going to think that there's the chance of them changing your mind. So there's this whole thing with like safe face in Korea, which basically is why people are so indirect in Korean culture. They don't really like to say things like directly. They always try to like go beat around the bush. So sometimes even if you say no, in their head, it doesn't always mean no. It means, oh, I can change your mind later. So just keep that in mind too, that sometimes even though you try to communicate things through, in their head, it doesn't always communicate that way. Okay, so red flag number 3. So this one, I'm not sure if it's so much of a red flag. So basically this is kind of the biggest red flag, and I feel like we all kind of know this one. So this is like open-minded. If you get asked by Koreans if you are open-minded, basically what they are asking is if you are DTF. That's basically what open-minded in Korean means. So a lot of what Koreans do is that they kind of take assumptions from American films or Western films or whatever. So they've come to attach the word open-minded to being open to having sexual relations with them on the first night or the first day, whatever. So if you get asked, are you open-minded, keep in mind that they don't actually mean it in the way that Westerners mean it. We don't mean like, oh, are you open about the world? Are you open to understanding other people's cultures? Are you kind of like understanding of different situations? It doesn't mean this to Koreans. For Koreans, open-minded basically means that you're DTF, that you're easy or whatever, that you're like willing to like do it, go all the way. Okay, so that's what open-minded means. I mean, you guys do whatever you want. If you guys are coming to Korea just to hook up, that's on you. I don't care, that's on you. But for those of you who are unaware of this situation or what this word means, then just keep that in mind. Red flag number 4. So if you ever get called 백마, which means white horse, that's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. I once had a time where like this person literally saved my contact information as 백마, and I had no idea. I wouldn't have even known had they not sent me a screenshot by accident. They were trying to show me something. They sent me a screenshot, and at the exact same moment that they took the screenshot and sent it to me, I had messaged them. And I recognized my message, obviously, like I had just sent it. So when they sent me the picture, it says 백마. It's like my name under 백마. And I was like, what the hell? And I was like, bro, did you just freaking call me white horse? And he's like, oh my god, no, I didn't. I was like, dude, I know what that means. And he's like, no. He's like, oh my god, it's such a big misunderstanding. It's like basically in Korea, like we see white horses as like the most beautiful animal, so I put you under 백마 because you're so beautiful and you're as beautiful as a white horse. And I was like, bro, like shut the fuck up. So basically it's like this fantasy that a lot of Korean guys have of like riding the white horse. Like if you think about positions, you'll understand why they'll call you 백마, white horse, whatever. And there's also other variations of the horse. You know, if you're a black girl, they have Hukma, I think, or something like that. I'm not completely sure, but there's variations out there. Like, what the hell? Anyways, okay, so now we're coming to red flag number 5. This isn't really a red flag, to be honest. It's not really a red flag, but it's just something to be aware of. If you're in Korea and you're being called glamorous, just keep in mind that it's actually sexualizing or objectifying your body. So I had no idea that this had a different meaning in Korean until I got told this so many times by different people, and I think I finally came to the point where I was like, okay, someone needs to explain what the fuck this word means, because I used to literally, when I first came to Korea, I had black hair, whatever, my natural black hair, but I would straighten it, so I had like just straightened permanent hair. I had big ass like earrings, like my plugs, like right now, if you can see, that's why I have holes in them. I had big ass plugs, and I would wear clothes from like Marshalls or like Ross from back in the States, right? Like my clothes were not glamorous at all, but I would always get called glamorous. People would be like, oh my god, you're so glamorous. Wow, you're so glamorous. Wow, your body. And then people would be like, your body's so glamorous. I was like, what? And I finally asked people, like, what does that mean? Like, oh, it's basically that you're busty. Like, you're busty. I wouldn't really say thick. I don't think it really means thick at all. It just means like you have big ass boobs. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone that didn't have big tetas out there being called glamorous. I don't have a butt, obviously, but yeah, I would always be called glamorous. And basically means that you have like a body, you know what I mean? So it's not really a red flag, but it's just something to keep in mind out there, that if you're getting called glamorous, that's basically what they mean. Okay, now red flag number 6. This one is really kind of hard to explain, and it's also really sad because it's based on a stereotype. So when people are asked, are you Russian, right? It's not everyone, I would say. More so it's like the older generation. I wouldn't really say it's like the younger generation all the time, although I have had situations where people are like, are you Russian, and they had that idea, you know. So I feel like this is a very sensitive red flag, where if anyone asks you, are you Russian, I feel like you shouldn't really take offense to it all the time, unless if it's like obvious that they're meaning it in that way, you know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes just because I have like my blonde wig or whatever, sometimes people are like, oh my god, you look Russian, or like, oh, are you Russian, you're so pretty, are you Russian? And you know, in those cases I don't take it to offense. Where I take it to offense is where people are like, you're so beautiful, I want to go to a motel with you, are you Russian, how much do you charge? Like, in that case it's obvious. But basically a long time ago, like in Korea, I don't know when exactly, but there used to be a lot of like Russian prostitutes. So then they started kind of like attributing the fact that all Russian women were prostitutes, and so now that's kind of like an indirect way of asking if you're a prostitute. So if you get asked by older men, I would say more so than anything, if you are Russian, then that's kind of a red flag as well. Not all the time. I feel like a lot of foreigners take offense to it so quickly when people are like, oh, like by any chance are you Russian, and they take the hugest offense to this. But I feel like just keep in mind that it's not always being asked in a malicious way, but it is there, just in case. So now red flag number 7. If guys ask if you live by yourself, or if they ask if they can go and play at your house, this is basically like the hugest red flag in the book. Like, there is no reason why a man should be asking if you live alone. What does it matter, right? Like, literally think about it. Like, what does it matter if you live by yourself, unless if they're inviting themselves over? So if they're inviting themselves over, or if they're like, oh, can I go see your house, can I go play at your house, like, for what? Like, don't you have a house we can go to? And maybe they might not, but like, why do we have to meet up at my house? You know what I mean? Like, this is one of the biggest red flags in the book, for someone to be meeting you, especially in Korea, because in Korean culture it is not really seen as like normal or whatever for men and women to like hang out at each other's houses. It's not like the culture norm here. As like in the States, as an American, I don't know where you guys are from, but as an American, I would have guy friends over all the time, and there would be no expectation of sexual activity other than just like hanging out, just chilling, whatever. There's really like zero expectation for anything to actually happen between us or whatever. However, in Korea, the culture here is so much more conservative, and so much more different, that in their eyes, if you ever invite someone over to your house, you're basically like inviting them over with like intentions of like intimate intentions or something like that. So like, I've had people like tell me like, why would you invite me here if you didn't want me to do this? Or why did you invite me here if you didn't want this to happen? Or why did you accept me into your house if this isn't what you were looking for? Literally, like, the amount of times I've had people trying to like justify the reasons as to why they were trying to like hook up with me after I said no is like so ridiculous, because like, I never said yes. And there's so many times when like, even if they asked to come over, whatever, or they were like, oh, we should hang out at your house or whatever, and I accepted, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, there's always so many times when I would have a disclaimer. I'd be like, but do not expect anything. Don't expect it to hook up. Like, I'm not inviting you over here to hook up. I'm like, yeah. And the whole safe face thing, right? They come over, we'd hang out, and then again, they'd have expectations. And then I bring that up. I'm like, I literally told you that this isn't what I wanted. This wasn't what I was looking for. I'd be like, but why would you do that? It's Korea, blah, blah, blah. You know? So just keep in mind that in Korea, a lot of people that I've met, not everyone, but a lot of people I've met have said that they do not believe that men and women can only be friends. So if you have anyone that's asking you to come over, just keep in mind that sometimes they might come over with the pretension that, or the assumption that something's gonna happen, that you're inviting them over because you want something to happen, which is not always the case. So I feel like as long as you're aware that these are some of the red flags and these are some of the expectations that Korean men might have, then I think it's really good just to be prepared and really like stand up for yourself and really like put your foot down. Do you know what I mean? Just be smart about it more so. Like, try to kind of weed people out or kind of read them out, or I don't know, like in my situation, like I still have people over all the time. I don't care like if they're girls, guys, whatever, but I still do try to like be smarter about it, and it doesn't always work, you know. There's always times when people still come over and they still have stupid expectations like that, and I'll be like, bro, like leave, get out of here, like no, you know. But I feel like as long as you have, like, you're aware that this might be an issue, that this might happen, then it can kind of help you for when and or if the situation does happen, or if and or when. But yeah, another red flag, this is red flag number 8. So for red flag number 8, I would say if they have a picture with only a girl, like their background, it's not always a red flag. But if they have a picture in the background, they're like, oh, that's my sister, and they're like hugging or whatever, then really think about it. Is that really their sister? Like, I've had so many guys lie and be like, oh, that's my sister, and it ends up being, or like, oh, that's my friend. It's like their hidden girlfriend. I'm just like, bro, what? So just keep in mind that sometimes that's also like a red flag. Like, obviously a lot of men are liars, and this doesn't just go to like Korean guys, just anyone in general. But yeah, I've had a lot of people be like, oh yeah, it's like my friend or something dumb like that, you know what I mean? Okay, now this is red flag number 9. So for red flag number 9, I would say that it's kind of hard sometimes to evaluate just because you're not like, you don't know their exact working schedule. But I would say if a guy texts you only during work time. So like in Korea, one of the things that shocked me in Korea is that a lot of Koreans use their phone while working. To me, that was such a shock, because I feel like in the States, even if I'm working at like 7-Eleven, I would not be able to use my phone. If I was caught using my phone, I would get a warning, or I would be told something by my boss. But in Korea, they literally use their phone all the time. If you even see like on TikTok, there's people like on TikTok live, like on their phone, doing lives at work, at like the penny dumps, like at the convenience store, at CU, at GS25, whatever. If you meet someone and they're only texting you during working hours, like for example 9 a.m. to like 6 p.m. or whatever, then I feel like that's a huge red flag, because why do they not have the time to like text you other times? Are they at home with their family? Are they at home with their wife, with their fiance, with their girlfriend? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like, to me, it's really sketch when someone only texts during certain times of the day, or only when they're at work or something. To me, that's such a huge red flag, because I've seen that happen to other people. Not to me. Y'all stay safe out there. Not to me, but I've had it happen to some of my friends. So I would say that's also a red flag. Just because, you know, like, it's so sketchy to me that they're only allowed to text, or they're only texting you at certain times and not like whenever. Do you know what I mean? For the last red flag, this is red flag number 10. I feel like this one's kind of self-explanatory. I don't really feel like you need a lot, but if you have someone that's only willing to hang out with you at nighttime, for example, like if you have someone that's only wanting to meet up with you like after 10, like 10 and on, and then only wanting to hang out at your house, doesn't want to hang out anywhere public, or maybe they want to hang out somewhere public but they're on their phone the entire time, I feel like that's a huge red flag. Do you know what I mean? Like, because why are you only trying to like hang out at this time in my house after 10 p.m? I feel like a lot of times it's like people who like can lie and be like, hey babe, I'm gonna go to sleep, and then they're literally not asleep, they're like hanging out with another girl. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that's also a red flag. But keep in mind that it's like when someone is always asking you to hang out after 10 p.m. or after a certain hour. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's only after a time that's kind of like logically you could be asleep at the time. Do you know what I mean? that to me is a red flag. Anyways, these are all the red flags I have. Keep in mind that these aren't 100%. It doesn't mean that they're like cheating or that they're hiding something or anything. It's not 100%. It's just something to be aware of, to know about, and just kind of keep in mind when you're meeting people. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments if any other red flags that happened to you or any other stories that you guys have. So just leave it in the comments. Any stories you guys might want to share with me about the red flags you guys faced while dating in Korea, or maybe just your thoughts on this video. Again, I hope that you guys are aware that this isn't just like a generalization. It's just kind of based on experiences, my own experiences with my friends, and other foreigners that I've seen in Korea. It doesn't always mean that it's a red flag or that that person's like a fuckboy or that they're a bad person. It's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're deciding if to continue on the relationship or continue on communication with this person. But I hope you guys like this video. Like and subscribe for more. Let me know what other content you'd like to see. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.